Okay, we are live. Good evening. I am attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined by my co-host, Miss G, Georgette Truan. Miss G, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing good. Tonight, we're supposed to have. Well, Mama says there's this tonight. Yes, we're live tonight, Friday night, January 6th, 2023. Little Mama. Tonight is question and answer. So if we have questions and answers of people that want to, you know, find out some information about their case or about CPS, please post your questions in the comments. We're being live streamed simultaneously to 8 different social media sites, one YouTube site on my YouTube channel. So, Miss G, while we're waiting for people to post questions, do you have any questions for me this evening?
Um,
No questions? Okay.
no, I do. I'm just trying
Oh,
to remember. It's been a long day. Um, um, I'm looking for the email. One of our show followers asked if both parents lose their parental rights and the family member adopted their child. The family member was told that um, if the parents go see the child, that they will remove their parental rights from them. That's in West Virginia. And I've never heard that before. So I researched the laws in West Virginia just now. It does not specify that, but that's basically what the workers told them, that the adoptive family, that is, who are relatives of the parents. And so he's asking me, the father is asking, I basically, when the person adopts, don't they make that decision whether or not they want the biological parent to be around or not?
in California, that would be just a decision for the new adoptive parent.
Right.
And
But that's also the law in West Virginia as well.
I don't know that to be true or not, but I know that in California, if you adopt a child, the child's yours. Social worker doesn't have anything to do with it. So
Right.
I would recommend that they speak to a lawyer in West Virginia about that.
They did speak to a lawyer, and he told them that they can't say that. Mm. So they can't do that. It's up to the adoptive family to
Right. That's the
allow
same.
the parents to be around or not.
Right. That's the same in California.
Right. Yeah. So basically, he wants to know if there's any way he can fight it. I did tell him to have a consultation with you, but he said he wants an answer now. But you were busy today, so I couldn't give him an answer now. So he said to ask you that question on the show.
Okay. Okay. Here's Ramona watching us on our YouTube channel. Good evening, Ramona. It says, do you know why the CPS keeps on changing different social workers? This is like the third one, and we only know through the therapist. CPS didn't tell us anything.
Right.
At the beginning of the case, changing social workers or getting a new social worker is not unusual because you start off with the emergency response worker, they call it the ER worker, and then you're given a social worker to help you with reunification services, and then a dependency investigator is assigned to the case. Now, depending on how long that case and vacation schedules and maternity schedules and just work careers, people come and go. So, having a social worker assigned to you that's different isn't unusual. Now, in some instances, especially lately, I've been hearing people that have filed complaints and proven or tried to prove that the social worker is biased and a new social worker is, assigned to the case. And so you can end up with a new social worker in that way. And I know in California, in the 16,500 section of the Welfare and Institutions Code, a parent can actually make a motion to get a new social worker. They have to show that the social worker, has somehow acted improperly, and that they have the actual evidence and facts to, prove that. But yeah, you can make that motion. Someone told me, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, that the social worker said something a tad racist. Okay, it wasn't a tad, it was straight out racist, about the family and their culture. And nobody believed them. But since they had Ring cameras and, Ring video, the, the social worker was, caught on tape saying this. And apparently she was immediately removed from the case, which, is the only thing that should be done. Um, and they wanted to know if they had a possible civil rights violation lawsuit against that social worker and perhaps the county. And my opinion was yes. I couldn't opine as to how big it was, how much the damages would be, but yeah, theoretically, they have a case. They were discriminated against based upon race or ethnicity. All right, Amanda says hello. Oh, here's an easy one. Harley Neff says, "How do I get my CPS records?" It depends on if your case is open or closed, but say your case is closed or open. Actually, you can file in California something called an 827 petition to give you copies of the records. Um, 827 is a petition to disclose records to to the parent or whoever's filing the 827. Okay. Did you have a question, Miss G? I think Miss G may be muted and doesn't know it.
It's been a long day. When they change a lot of social workers, don't they do that intentionally to confuse the case? I mean, that's what the social worker told me, the one that left the agency. She told me that the reason they do that is to confuse the case because each social worker have their own opinion and somehow their own biased opinion. And so it doesn't really matter what the previous one said, even if it was favoring the parent. Um,
I mean,
and
I assume that that's a possibility. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
they usually tell the parents that they moved or they left the company. I mean, sorry, they went to a different department or they're not there anymore. And that's in every like situation I've encountered. So that's why I asked her her opinion on that, and she told me the real truth. She said they do that intentionally, so that it's really just to confuse the case.
Okay, Jamie Brandenburg says, if I have a standby guardian, would that keep my baby from going to foster care in case they come to take her because DCS is still harassing me? Jamie, if you're in California, the answer to that question would be no. No, they can still take the child. And often, many people have those standby guardians or family members. And just to, sometimes um, seems like maybe punishment or, you know, I don't know what the reason is, but they don't give the child to the relative or the standby guardian. They decide that they want to make their own decisions. Oh, and Jamie says, I'm from Indiana. Jamie, I can only tell you what the law is in California. I would, definitely consult with an Indiana attorney about that issue. It's a really good question. It seems like you should be able to, but California doesn't follow that rule, unfortunately. Mary Wilson says, "It is my right to request your public defender, or is it my right to request your public defender to be present while meeting the CWS worker during reunification phase?" Ah, Mari, that's a very good question. You do have that right. However, they do not have to do it. And I've been doing this many years in different counties, especially Los Angeles County. I take that back. I can think of one case where I, um, a public defender or court appointed attorney went to the meeting with the social worker. So, Mari, you can ask, they do not have to grant. Um, Monia says hello. Mary says, sorry, my public defender. Yeah, I knew that was your public defender you were talking about, Mary. Okay. All right, we have, hold on,
It's La Mariposa.
La Mariposa.
Yes.
Hold on a second. I think La Mariposa is a member of my YouTube channel. La Mariposa, hello, how are you? It says, after a child is removed and a social worker wants to come see you at home, can you call the police for a welfare check? The answer is theoretically you can do that, but once the social worker or once the police find that the child is in a foster home, I doubt that they're going to do a welfare check. And as a matter of fact, it might be used against you in the juvenile court system.
But don't CPS usually put children in harm's way in foster homes? So, I mean, we have children who died in foster homes with parents concerned about their safety, and the parents end up being right. Nobody's going to feel more than the parent. I mean, I don't understand how, but I don't get it. I don't get it. What if they're really in danger? The police wouldn't do anything?
Not if they found out the child was in foster care. That's my opinion. But police have a lot of discretion on what to investigate, what not to investigate. I guess I could see some circumstance that comes up, horrific circumstance where the police will go out there, but I wouldn't say that's the rule. It's the exception. Harley Neff says, how come a confidential case court date be held over the phone involving adoption over the phone? Isn't that weird? It's confidential, but it's okay to adopt my son out over the phone without me. Well, Harley, since COVID here in California and probably in most states, um, things have been relaxed, and internet and phone is now, readily available and favored in most hearings. I did a hearing this afternoon, Harley, and I was going to say everyone appeared by phone, but one of the attorneys appeared in person. Turned out to be a complete waste of time. Um, but it's becoming the norm, not the exception. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The jury's with me is out on that issue. I sometimes, sometimes presenting witnesses online or over the phone might be beneficial because it's easier for them to attend, and there's less distractions. They're there at home or their office by themselves, and hopefully you might get better testimony from them. So during COVID, I've done a lot of hearings and still do online and over the phone. Jamie watching on YouTube says, if I printed off Google Maps, would that be admissible in court? Because they are alleging that I take my baby with me to purchase drugs. So I thought if I could show them where I've been by my Google Maps, then I could use that as evidence. Interesting question. That's a very interesting question. And I think at this stage of the game, the answer to that could go both ways. And here's the reason. Just theoretically speaking, Google Maps is hearsay, and it's not admissible. Okay. Now, it might fall under the one of the exceptions if you brought in an expert to explain to the court how Google Maps works. I recently, maybe in the past 2 or 3 months, learned about Google Maps and about it tracking your locations when you're out in the world. So there is, in my opinion, a high indicia of reliability, but everybody doesn't know that. I'll just ask Miss G. Miss G, did you know that Google Maps can track you wherever you go in the United States or the
No.
world? Yeah, you didn't know that. And see, if Miss G was the judge, she wouldn't know what you're talking about, Jamie.
If
So
I
you'd
was
have
a
to.
judge, you would have not lose any of your children, but whatever.
So, Jamie, you have to bring in that kind of expert testimony. And still the judge could say, well, no, I don't believe it. Or I don't, think it's reliable enough. So that's the problem.
You know
Apple
what?
Apple Maps or Apple has the same feature on their phone. And they've changed it recently in the past maybe 6 months to a year. But your iPhone used to record everywhere you went. It still does, but you used to could see it. You could see it on your phone. You could print it out and look at where all the places you've been. Now they don't do that, although it's still recording your places. And people who, a lot of people was using that for business to track themselves and their time at, this location or that location. It was really an actual uh, great tool. But then, people learned how to use it for other purposes, like stalking someone. They find out everywhere you're going or everywhere you've been and how long you were there. Now, Miss G, you have an iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but in your location settings, your phone tracks everywhere you go and how long you've been there. Did you know that?
No.
It is not readily available to you, but at least maybe within the last year or two, it was a feature that's been on iPhone for years. And people were using it to track their time and bill clients and, keep records for employment and all that kind of stuff. But now they don't. But your phone is still recording it. And I don't think Apple has finally decided what they're going to do with that information, if they're going to release it back to you or not. So we shall see.
I do want to mention something
Hmm.
with um, families who are dealing with adoption. According to an investigation published in December by NBC News, um, the law created a ticking clock for children in the state custody, requiring the state to file for termination of parental rights after 15 months in most cases. Non-compliant states risk losing federal funding, and state that increase adoption receives financial rewards for every child adopted. So a lot of people don't understand why they keep pushing for adoption. Is because of the money they get. It's like a big reward they get. Like if Mr. Davis, for example, says, okay, Georgette, if you work the whole month for me, um, you know, overtime, blah, 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 I'll give you like 10,000, right? That's exactly how the judges feel. That's why they keep pushing the numbers of adoption. And the from 2015, the investigative an NBC investigative unit did, they discovered from 2015 to 2019, 327,000 children were countrywide were adopted. So parents lost their parental rights. That's more than that now. So, um, like I said to you guys before, lawyer up. You don't want to lose your children, for the love of God.
Right. So I want to give a shout out to a new member of my YouTube channel, Timothy Clark. Welcome to the family, Timothy. Thank you very much. Okay, we have Eric Santos. Queen G, you look beautiful in white. You too, Mr. Davis. Thanks,
Mm.
Eric. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, my friend. Okay, Ramona says both of the social workers lied on the reports, and now we have a new one. Okay. I mean, I probably hear that every day, 5 to 10 times a day, about a social worker not being truthful.
Mm.
It's funny. I hear it so much. I wonder why social workers don't wear body cams.
Because they don't want to get caught, and the government knows this.
Police
They
have
don't
to
want
wear
to
body
pass that
cams.
law.
Police wear body cams.
Doesn't matter. It's not about the police.
Do you think that would change anything in these cases? Body
Yes,
cams?
100%.
I think you're right. I think
100%.
I
They're
think
gonna
you're
walk
right.
on eggshells, these assholes.
I think you're right.
Mhm.
Ramona also says, and they ain't getting in trouble or anything. Yeah.
They don't. They have immunity.
Hey, Ramona, I want to tell you something. Short story. You probably heard it before. It's happened 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I represent a woman in a civil rights case against DCFS in Los Angeles County. And at the social worker's deposition, the key social worker, we videotaped it. And I had just started videotaping these social worker depositions. And the social worker finally got to a point where she admitted that she did not tell the truth in certain court filings. Came out and admitted, and I asked her every which way but Sunday, just so she couldn't change her mind later. She had a really good law firm representing her. Well, do you know that social worker ended up getting a promotion? And today, I believe she's still there, is in a supervisory position at a local DCFS office in Los Angeles County.
Yep.
So if you thought they were going to get in trouble, Ramona, it's just the opposite. Now, there's a long theory that I have about why she didn't get in trouble and she got rewarded. Because in the end, she took full responsibility of what happened. And she claimed that there were no people above her that were on what I will call the conspiracy to cover up the truth. She took full responsibility. I never believed it for a second, couldn't prove otherwise. We went to a mediation, and my client settled the case for a large sum of money against my advice, but she settled the case. But I'm telling you this because the woman got a promotion and a raise because you make more money as a supervisor position. Now here, and I am assuming she still works for the department. Here's a woman that has admitted that she has committed perjury in the court system. She then got promoted to a supervisory position and continued to work there. And I think probably it still does work there. Now, think about that for a second. Let that sink in. And when you go to court and you're cross-examining these social workers, the attitude that I get, even from attorneys, is how could you dare call into question this social worker's veracity? Well, because I know they lie. Now, let me say something, and I know Miss G doesn't agree with this. I'm not saying all social workers lie.
Just only two of them, 2 out of 400,000. That's not lying.
You know, got to keep it neutral, Miss G.
Mhm.
Okay, here's Dawn. Dawn says, how do I state my claim if a social worker lied in testimony to get a protective supervision? I had no open case. I hadn't spoke to a caseworker in years. And then it says, she then took my children. This was a complete shock out of the blue. Now, what's kind of funny is we're talking about social workers not telling the truth. And here's Dawn with a question coming up. Well, how do you state your claim? I'm not sure what you mean is if you mean how do you bring a lawsuit? All right, you have to file under your state laws or I file most cases under federal law, Title 42 USC, United States Code Annotated, Section 1983, the general federal civil rights laws that apply to all social workers. You get damages, attorney's fees, you can even get punitive damages. It's a very powerful tool. So if a social worker has lied, at least in the Ninth Circuit, probably all over the country, social workers don't have immunity for lying. Ninth Circuit had made that clear a couple of years ago. You can see that video on YouTube.
Then why do they still lie and get away with it? And why do they get promoted after they lie?
Because I don't think they think that you're not going to do anything. And most people don't, and they can't. I'm going to give you an example of something. I have a friend that practices in this area of bankruptcy. And he explained something very strange to me. If you declare bankruptcy, GT, and all your debts are erased, there are some companies that will call you up and say, "Hey, GT, you still have to pay that debt."
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's illegal. And if and your attorney decide to go to court and get sanctions against the people who called you, you might win six, seven, $10,000. Okay. Now, this is the example that my friend told me. They have companies that are Fortune 1000 companies that do this for a living.
Mm-hmm.
They might make $100 million a year and get fined $10 million a year. But the bottom line is they still make $90 million. So they're still going to do this because they know you, as a poor debtor who has nothing, can't do anything. You can't get a lawyer
Mm-hmm.
to protect your rights. Now, that's the same thing that I think happens in a lot of different areas of law, including the CPS area. I spoke to someone today in Florida. Okay, I'm in LA. They called me from South Florida. They had a great case. Here's the problem: they can't afford to prosecute the case. They couldn't find a lawyer in their area. They couldn't find a lawyer in the entire state of Florida. So they called me. Now I'm in LA. Well, why can't you take it on contingency fee, Mr. Davis? Well, Mr. Davis doesn't have the money like that to fund your lawsuit. This isn't a car accident case that's going to be over in about 3 to 6 months.
Mm-mm.
This is like a 2-year war, all out battle. Who's going to pay for my flight to
We
Florida?
offer services, period. That's it. End of
Yeah.
Jesus. I'm so sick of people thinking that. I just get wow.
So so think about that. I mean, CPS knows that you're not going to be able to find someone, or the chances are you're not going to be able to find someone. All right. So Miss Parker Gigi says, "Hello, Mr. Vincent and Miss G.
Yeah, she corrected it.
Hello." Okay, here's another one of the questions from a member from my YouTube channel. Can we record a conversation with a social worker without them knowing they are being recorded? Ah, the answer is, in California, no.
The answer is yes. In my opinion, you can listen to me or Davis, whichever. You can go.
I'm the only 35-year attorney on the screen.
That's
And I'm
nice.
telling you, do not tell
Right.
people that they can record. You're going to get them put in
I'm not
jail and
trying to do it.
sued,
Let me
sued
finish.
for
Let me
$25,000 for each
finish what I'm
recording.
gonna say. If you have a Ring camera in your home and you have a sign outside your door that says this house is 24-hour surveillance, and the Ring cameras in your living room, kitchen, hallway, whatever, and the social worker is there and she walked to your door, entered your door while the sign is out there, 24-hour surveillance, then she consented to be recorded.
Okay, so that's a
I'm just
great
saying there's ways
I-
to go around it.
that's a gray area. However, I would agree with you with that interpretation, but that's not the
It
question.
came from an attorney.
That's not the question La Mariposa asked.
He asked or she asked if they're not knowing. Can
Without them knowing.
right without them knowing? Can
It
they?
wasn't, "Oh, it was on a sign and I walked past it." That wasn't the question.
Okay, without them knowing, no. You have to let them know. But again, there's a way. If they're gonna meet you at the house and they walk to your door, I mean, they consented because you have the camera there.
That's
That's all
not
I'm
necessar
saying.
not necessarily true. It's a very gray area. People, if you do this, you can be criminally prosecuted in California,
How come
and
it came from an attorney?
you can be fined up to $25,000.
Mm.
So be careful what you're doing. and you hear all kind of shit on the internet. All right. Armanda Ministries. 3 foster children just died here in Virginia when the foster father, quote unquote, tried to cross a river in his car. Were you telling me about this, Miss G? Somebody
Yep.
was telling me about that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, with all that weather and snowy, that's negligence. I mean, they're going to be sued. Those families, those poor families, they get their kids taken away and then they die in foster care. Deidre Payne. Hi, Mr. Davis and Miss G. Hi, Deidre. How are you? Okay. Armada says CPS refused to investigate very credible allegation of sex abuse by my daughter's father. Should I write a formal notarized request for investigation? They took all 5 of my children instead. Can you give me some help on that one? I'm not sure I'm following that question. Oh, here's further. They are claiming I am mentally ill with no evidence whatsoever.
Um, who's they? The social workers or the court
Good question. Good question.
or the therapist? Either way.
Well, here's another comment by Armada.
To be fair, I guess she said. Well, to be fair, all CPS uses is hearsay as evidence. That is correct.
And they are allowed to do it in California.
Apparently, yeah.
Deirdre Payne says Google tracks everything you do.
Well, Google will see my ass sitting at home working all freaking day and night.
Harley says, how come the judge looked at me after I finished my case plan and said it would be detrimental to my child to return him to me since he's been at grandma's house for a year and a half? Probably, Harley, because you and your lawyer didn't present the right type of evidence. All right. Having
Wasn't
problems.
it detrimental for the child to leave the parent to begin with? Isn't that sad? But then they have
Very.
this excuse that is detrimental to leave the other home to go back to the parent. That doesn't make any freaking sense whatsoever.
Okay, Don says, when you're scheduled to appear to court and not given a notice till 2 days of the court date and being given a consult from a public defender last than an hour on the day off, is it legal or illegal? In California, Don, it's legal. I'm sorry to say. Sorry to say. Monia, I took a psychology test and stress assessment, but was contracted to take a parenting evaluation. Should I retake the test on my own to cancel out CPS evaluation? I'm not following that one. Are you, Miss G?
Um, she
That's kind
wants
of
to know if she can retake the test, the psychology test, uh, on her own to cancel out CPS evaluation, meaning she can go to a different psychiatrist.
yeah. In California, you can always do that. You can always do that.
But they cost a lot of money, though.
They
When they,
can. They
it's like
can. Yeah.
that. The cheapest one is like maybe 9,250, something like that.
Shout out again to Timothy Clark, new member of our YouTube channel. Thank you, Timothy. Thank you. I really appreciate you. We appreciate you, Timothy. Deidre's saying something about then they can't lie anymore.
She's
Maybe.
referring to the social workers.
Okay. The nonconformist. Is it normal to use a 730 to order a paternity test in a dependency case? Is it policy to keep results locked and confidential, lie about when the results come in? Is it normal? I wouldn't say it's normal, but I've seen it done. on many occasions over the
Yes,
last
it is normal to lie.
30 years.
It's normal.
Um, is it policy to keep results locked and confidential, lie about when the results come in? No, that's not normal. Does it happen?
Yes.
Apparently. Yeah, but it's, I would say it's not normal.
Hmm.
Eric says they need to wear body cam. I agree with you, brother. Agreed, Eric. In the meantime, record them.
I didn't say it.
Oh, I'm not saying that you said it. And I don't know where Armanda, what state she is. Some states apparently, I don't know this, but I've heard that some states allow you to tape, record persons without their knowledge.
Government officials automatically, as soon as you become one, it pretty much give a consent that you can be recorded in public.
That's not the law in California.
Mm. California is full of shit.
You're here. The nonconformist on
Yeah,
a
I'm in a
JV
place that's full of shit.
on a JV 180 filed by Minors Council, put alleged father's name on the form without the term alleged and was filed after results came, but before hearing that said alleged father was not bio results came. Okay. And then it's nonconformist says a month before they were said to have came, I found out via going to court and viewing file. I believe the paternity test results given as a lie, as the only thing in file unviewable. Well, you ask to take the paternity test over again, or pay for your own paternity test. That should solve that problem.
It's
Hello,
Midfahi,
Midfahi. Okay, thank you for that help.
Midfas or something.
I
Midfas.
was trying to sound it out in my mind. Armanda says, I'm in Virginia. You can record any conversation if you are a participant. It is a one-party consent state. However, to use that as evidence, you have to ask permission to record a state worker. See, Miss G, they got all kind of rules from state to state.
All I'm saying is state officials, government officials automatically give consent to be recorded. I mean, we recorded police officers doing some bad things, and if it wasn't for the recording, right, they would never be caught. So why is it that the state emphasizes so much on protecting the social workers, the ones that are actually stealing your soul from you, right under your nose, and they're not allowed to be recorded? I just find that very suspicious.
Hmm.
Mm.
Maybe you should do something about it.
I'm getting tired of you saying that, Mr. Davis.
Talk is cheap, my friend.
Mm.
All right. We have Can we use recorded Zoom hearings as evidence that the AG CPS social worker lies about everything and the judge knew it still continued on with the proceeding? I think, at least in California, CPS hearings are confidential. So you can't use them any place, and unless you get permission from the judge. And I think it's even a crime if you're if you're recording these court proceedings. I've heard tell that people are doing it, but it is illegal, and if you get caught, there'll be a bill to pay. Okay, Timothy says the social worker convinced my stepmom not to monitor after she agreed to doing it. For me, what can I do? You can talk to your stepmom, convince her otherwise, or you can get another monitor. Your monitor, if you're in California, can be anyone 18 years of age or older. And CPS can't unreasonably change or withhold permission for that person to monitor. So if they do, you go see the judge. But try to talk your stepmom into doing it. I'm sure CPS social worker just badmouthed you and took that visitation resource away from you. Crescent Sewing. Court took my kid, yet the subpoena had the wrong in. Translation, Miss G?
The subpoena had the wrong number.
Okay, here you go. Court took my kid subpoena, had wrong child name. Okay.
Okay.
I did everything I was asked. Worker lied, said I didn't. They and said I didn't. They never got the evaluation. Louisiana.
That's true, though. That's actually true. It happened in California several times. They go to the wrong home and they take the child. That's not even the right child. They did that with a couple of schools and they were sued. They actually went to the school, took the wrong child, and gave the parents hell to get the child back. It was crazy. It was like 6 months of
Oh my
torture.
god.
And the child had the basically it's like, I'll give you an example, like Nora Hernandez, and this child was Nora Marie Hernandez. I'm giving you an example, but wrong address, wrong parents. Parents are different names, but you know, not right. It's not right what they're doing. But apparently, they can just go to the home and just take your child. Yep.
Jamie says Google will track everything you do physically and everything you do on your computer.
Mm.
Okay, Timothy says the judge gave me unmonitored visits. Regardless of my meds, the social worker stopped my unmonitored visits over the same thing after I went over that at the last minute. Okay, I didn't follow that last phrase, the last part of the sentence, Timothy. Okay, Miss G, we're coming close to the end of this evening's show. We have our weekend show tomorrow and Sunday at 9 a.m. Before we go, is there anything that you want to say in closing out?
No, thank you.
Okay, folks. Well, thank you for watching. Tomorrow, I think we're supposed to have a guest tomorrow. We'll be hearing some stories and answering some questions. So please tune in at 9 a.m. Everyone have a good Friday evening. Good night.